All right, Joe, we're gonna watch this trailer. We're gonna watch this trailer of IGN's 2 out of 10.
Zombies can be fun to mow down, but they also run the risk of being one of the least interesting monster enemies.
Like Jovan. Okay. I knew it wasn't Jovan, but I didn't want to like come off and sound fucking even more ignorant trying to think about how it's actually pronounced. So Jovan. Is it Jovan or like Jovan? I assume Jovan, but I could be wrong. All right, Jovan, we're gonna check out this trailer.
Types around. A slow, lumbering, decaying husk that's better off buried than occupying our attention. If nothing else, The Walking Dead Destinies, based off the otherwise fantastic early seasons of the TV show, succeeds in embodying all their worst
that looks
qualities
rough.
in its ugly, shuffling attempts to stand tall even while looking like...
Okay, I take it back. That does look like a PlayStation 1 game. 100%. The screenshot made it look like a PlayStation 2, but that is without a doubt a PlayStation 1 looking game. If it looked like a PS3 game that it could pass, yeah, no, it looks like a straight PlayStation 1 game.
Like a rotting husk of a game from the Xbox 360 days. Destinies deserves neither your attention nor access to your wallet.
This guy's voice is pretty, like, melodramatic too, so it fits really well.
And we were better off if this boring mess had stayed buried in the past from which it seems to have exhumed its broken mechanics. While it earns a small amount of credit for at least attempting to play with the plots that diverge from the TV show, little else is done to elevate it above the muck of banal design, awful character models, and the laughable sense of this is barely a rough draft of a game.
Oof. Destined for the Trash. What a title. What a title for a game review. Jovan, did you play this? Did you play The Walking Dead Destinies? Or you just saw its shitty review and you said, fuck that?
Longtime fans of the TV show are clearly the target audience here, since the characters poorly mimic the visual likeness of their real performers. But aside from trying to strike a chord through recognizability, Destinies presumes you know the entire melody as you're unceremoniously thrown into the shoes of...
Yeah, look at the character model, dude. Oh my god, dude. I don't know how people think they can get away with games like this nowadays.
What the fuck is that?
Right? A fucking 5-head, dude. My god.
Rick Grimes after he wakes up in the hospital alone.
I didn't play it, but people are clowning on it really hard. Even the Escapist game looks better. Damn, dude. I mean, it looks better than the day before, I guess, but that's kind of like a really low bar now, as that's probably like the worst game ever.
It is here, right at the beginning of what became 8 to 9 painful hours, that everything falls apart. The hospital is naturally filled with zombies, and Rick must find his way out with some basic mechanics like pushing and sneaking and healing that we've seen.
Oh, they went with like the super, I was talking about this earlier with that first game I was playing tonight, but those like quick time events. Now like quick time events for like hacking and doing little mini games, I think that's fine. But when like your gameplay mechanic is about like spamming buttons to push zombies back, like screw that. You should be able to punch a zombie in the head or something.
All right.
Like spamming triangle or whatever.
Third person post-apocalyptic
not
horror
engaging
game ever, but worse.
Right?
Easier than stabbing, right?
The zombies are of course mindless by design, but these are some of the most incompetent enemies you will encounter in any video game. Aside from there being only about 3 zombie models, they also get stuck in walls, glitch through the ceiling, collide with each other, and pose about as much threat as a wet sock on a carpet. Annoying and unsightly, but otherwise forget.
That's an interesting quote. As much threat as a wet sock on the carpet.
Threat as a wet sock on a carpet.
I guess he can't get static shock that way? I don't know.
What kind of wet sock?
Yeah. How'd that sock get wet? Is it going to be crusty when it's no longer wet?
Annoying and unsightly, but otherwise forgettable. Destinies is ugly as sin, with hideous character models, terrible lighting, and homely environments that themselves are reused multiple times.
Yeah.
I've been playing plenty of games out of my backlog from the Xbox 360 days on my Series X lately, and I can tell you this current gen game looks worse than the nearly 20-year-old GTA.
This guy just on IGN just said, I've been playing a bunch of backlog games on my Xbox 360, and this game looks worse.
It's like,
you're right, dude. It does look like, it looks like one of those mobile games that advertise for The Walking Dead, except it looks worse than a mobile game. Which is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive to look worse than a fucking mobile game. But I bet you they spent a few $1 million, $30–40 million making this piece of shit. At least.
The texture resolution reminds you of bad webcams we all endured
$30–40 million
during early COVID-19 Zoom calls. At the very least, the frame rate seemed...
less.
You think less?
Yeah.
Well, let's see. What does how much does the average game cost to make? It's a lot more than I would originally thought. The cost of making an indie game, this isn't an indie game, right? The average cost of an indie game is between $50,000 and $750,000 to make. If this was an indie game, basically what it's looking like is it costs between anywhere from $10,000 to $1 million.
Look how much it costs to make the Golem game. We'll use that as
the what game?
The Golem game.
Okay. The Golem game reportedly cost $15.9 million to make.
What the fuck?
Yeah. According to German gaming publication Game 2, The Lord of the Rings Golem cost around $15.9 million to make.
I wonder if that involves, like, do they have to purchase the license? Is that why it's
I'm
so much?
I'm sure the license games just cost a ton of money to make. You know, I believe like marketing's incorporated in with that as well. I would say on the low end, they spent $10 million to make this game, dude.
That just sounds like outrageous for something of that quality.
Right. The game was announced in September and they should have probably released it in 2024, not this year. Yeah, I don't know. Like they'd have to completely change the engine of this game though to make it not look like fucking dog water. All right, well, let's see what IGN has to say.
Consistent at 60 frames per second on PS5.
Those old Lord of the Ring games from the PS3 era is better than Golem. True that, dude. True that. I used to have some on the, I think it was like, I never had the PS3. There were some Lord of the Ring games on the 360, I think. And those were like, they were really linear, but they looked better than fucking Golem, that's for sure.
When it wasn't crashing or failing to display its so-called cutscenes.
Don't hurt my little girl.
I also hit several game-breaking bugs, one of which required a full restart. Also, during a boss fight, my character refused to interact.
Imagine playing a shitty game, and then you hit a game-breaking bug that makes you fully restart the game, dude. And then you have to play through again. Yeah, I bet this game was anywhere between $5 to $10 million to make.
With the enemy to initiate a cutscene, not to mention sound and music would vanish for no reason until I restarted. Speaking of, the cutscenes themselves are consistent with those cheap-looking placeholder types we've seen in games like Redfall and Rise of Kong, which Destiny's publisher Game Mill was also behind. Characters are displayed in static pose.
Yeah, you're right, Joven. The cutscenes are garbage. They're like the stills, huh? So maybe then it was closer to 5 million and not 10 million because they could have spent $5 million on actually making cutscenes, but instead they just did slow still images. Maybe they eked out around 5 million.
As well, their voice actors deliver lines, giving you the opportunity to see their terrible designs in full glory. They are clearly meant to vaguely resemble their TV counterparts, but they look like what you'd get if you asked me to draw them from memory. Strangely enough, the voice performances are actually not atrocious, but the actors didn't have much to work with. For example, they all have one-liners when taking down enemies or fighting them off.
Blood's boiling.
They repeat
the combat looks like shit too. It'd be like one thing if, yeah, this game looks terrible, dude. I can't believe it's that mixed.
Endlessly.
My blood's boiling.
In the context of a dangerous world of constant terror, hearing weird action movie one-liners from both an ex-cop and a 70-year-old farmer was jarring.
Stay alert, Herschel.
Destiny's doesn't even tell the show's story well. For example, early on, when Rick's son Carl is shot, it is never explained who shot him, and no one seems to know or care at all. In fact, Otis, the culprit in the show, never even appears in Destinies. Instead, the survivors simply grab the boy and run off to the Green Farm story arc that infamously slowed the series' pace down.
The path not locked.
The only thing Destinies has going for it is being able to play with a titular
$50 to clown on the game. I mean, that's an option, bro. Yeah, maybe just pirate it, huh? Yeah, I mean, do they deserve the money, you know?
No.
Well, I feel like there's like plenty of other shitty fucking games I don't have to pay for to, yeah.
dynamic, the fates of its characters. There are many occasions where you must make a binary decision that leads to the death or abandonment.
I don't got that Asmongold money where I can just fucking play these RNG games, drop $5,000 into it and make it all back.
Of a survivor. If you know the show, it is of course enjoyable to make the decision that runs against the established plot. Most notably, you can basically recast the main character, choosing who wins the fight between Rick and Shane after they spend some time at the farm, letting
I'll be honest, I've never watched a single episode of The Walking Dead. But I can tell you that the characters they're using to, like, obviously know what the characters look like from advertisements. They just look like shit. Everybody has a fucking 5-head in this game. Everybody has the biggest fucking forehead I've ever seen.
Shane take over as husband and father to Rick's family. That's a pretty dramatic fundamental change.
Only one of us is going back to that farm.
It's clear the developers had some love for the show, given the work put into portraying Shane as we've never seen him. His hair and beard grow out. He forms relationships with characters he never met, and so on. Another good example of an impactful decision in
a boss fight, Rick Grimes just tanks shotgun shells to the head. Well, with that 5-head, bro,
involves changing
the 5-head everybody has here, they can take a few shotgun shells
from
to
a
the
decision
head.
you make in the first few hours. But unfortunately,
that's the most
this is only
consistent part of this game, it looks like.
Since it fails miserably in execution, and naturally most decisions do little to affect the actual plot. The survivors move through different camp areas in their grand road trip, such as the previously mentioned farm and later prison. These become hub areas where you do 3 things. Start the next main and side missions, resolve a meaningless conflict between 2 characters, and talk to other survivors.
Don't you look down at your nose at me, sonny boy.
And by talk, I mean each person will say one arbitrary generic line whenever you go back to the hub area, offering no reflection on the events happening around them. For example, Rick's wife Lori comments on her pregnancy.
I couldn't bring a baby into this.
And she's saying this to the man who blew her husband's brains out. Each main mission usually sees you playing as a different survivor. Often this makes little sense since you're generally by yourself or playing as the worst person for the task at hand.
They love the quick scene, the quick button presses in this game. Yeah, this looks like a fucking 15, 20-year-old game. Not only graphically, but just like play style.
A few hours into Destinies, Lori gives birth in the prison. But a few minutes later, you're playing as her to recover items from a nearby department store. There were many other survivors who did not just endure a birth in a zombie apocalypse who could have gone, but sure, let's send the new mother. No explanation is given.
The right choice is the choice that keeps us alive.
So a chick has a baby and then 5 minutes later she has to go and fucking rob a fucking store? That's great.
Destinies attempts to shake up the scenarios in its main quest, but they all come down to either getting to a specific part of the map or collecting items. Very rarely will 2 characters be together, assisting one another, which was a central focus of the entire show and its spin-offs. There was an opportunity to have one character make decisions that a second character would have to endure the consequences of, but Destinies does nothing with this. In fact, it's just not very good at consequences.
What's up with the screen turning blue all the time? Is there some kind of button you can press that shows you where zombies are? My theory is that the game came out in 2012. It's been sitting on a hard drive, never uploaded. I think you're right, bro. I'm not a big conspiracy theory person, but that sounds spot on, man. It's just been sitting in some dev's fucking locker and they forgot about it. Oh shit, that's right. We made this game fucking, what was that? 12 years ago, 10 years, 11 years ago. We should fucking release this.
I wonder if they made it and then they were able to afford the license.
Maybe, but I don't know why you'd work on a game if you didn't already have the license to it. This is just sitting in some guy's gym bag in a fucking at a racquetball court for 11 years.
In general, the central and titular dynamic of Destinies is watching your choices define the lives of these survivors. But it doesn't function well enough to maintain the illusion. More than once I saw characters I'd killed deliberately or inadvertently appear during cutscenes. Rick's son, who died from a gunshot in my playthrough, was running from the farm in a static cutscene. Rick himself was
I hate when games do that. So they give you an option to kill or keep people alive. But even if you kill somebody later in a cutscene, it will show them still alive. That's just fucking lazy game dev. You couldn't make fucking 3 or 4 different. It's not even like the cutscenes are animated. They're still frames. You know what I mean? Just I use fucking apps for my thumbnail creators where I can fucking remove people and things from it. Surely they have the technology to spend 5 minutes doing that.
Appeared for a solid few seconds battling the Horde in the final fight. This may be a universe with a dead return from the grave, but I don't...
I remember some guy named Cookie TWD was defending the game when it was announced. And then when it came out, he was ashamed of what he defended. Yeah, the internet doesn't forget, bro.
I don't think Destinies is doing it right.
They'll remember your opinion, you know? That's how it goes. There's a lot of I'm a fanboy of a few genres. I don't really defend them, but I'll be optimistic about them.
All right, the Colonel Sanders dating game.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check out the Colonel Sanders dating game. Hold up, this part in the gym is just copying The Last of Us. I haven't played The Last of Us, so I'll have to take your word for that.
Each survivor has various unique skills that can be upgraded by acquiring skill points, either through completing tasks or finding radios for some reason. For example, the pizza delivery guy can upgrade his sneaking movement speed to avoid conflict with zombies, or Rick's revolver can do more damage. The skill tree is a massive eyesore and ultimately meaningless. In the first 2 hours, I already maxed it out.
Yeah, this skill tree is pretty much like a placeholder skill tree.
For everyone.
That's gonna be great!
Even fully upgraded.
Okay, what part in the gym were you saying is a copy and paste? The whole scene?
Battling the Horde in the final fight. This may be a universe where the dead return from the grave, but I don't think Destinies is doing it
I didn't
right.
play The Last of Us either, so.
Each survivor has various unique skills that can be upgraded by a dead return from the grave, but I don't think Destinies is doing it right.
I don't play a lot of
Each
zombie
survivor
games.
has various unique skills that can begin to encounter tougher human enemies, but their armor and agility just means they are more irritating and take longer to kill. Oddly, they are also introduced out of nowhere.
In The Last of Us, you also fight a big zombie in a gym-like area? Oh, gotcha. Well, it's still not as much of a ripoff as the day before, where they basically just like took everybody else's game trailers and put their images into place. Did you see that video, Turp? They do like a side-by-side comparison of like all of the fucking content rips they did off of other games.
Nowhere, not spoken of at all. They first appear during Shane's only flashback sequence to when he was trying to rescue Rick from the hospital. Who are they? What do they want? Why are they attacking Shane? Sorry, you'll never know if you haven't watched the TV series. Shane himself never reacts to it.
Well, the verdict, this should be good. Yeah, they copied the font. They copied a lot of stuff. I'll see if I can find a quick little like 15-second side-by-side after this.
A boring, ugly mess of a game to be avoided at all costs, The Walking Dead Destinies fails to do anything interesting with the story and the characters of the popular TV show it's based on. While the ghost of a promising concept haunts the periphery, that of making choices different from what happened in the early seasons of the show and watching them play out, its horrendous graphics, weightless combat, repetitive mission design, and as many bugs as zombies reduce Destinies to the gaming equivalent of a biological hazard.
He said, everything about this game reduces it to the gaming equivalent of a biological hazard. That's quite a review from a major gaming publication. Too painful.